Well, Biden's new executive order promoting central bank digital currencies is raising some eyebrows, to say the least. Digital currencies, if we march in that direction, might not be such a great idea. Could be definitely marching in a surveillance state. With us now is Dr. Michael Rectenwald, Distinguished Fellow at Hillsdale College, former NYU Professor, and author of The Great Reset and the Struggle for Liberty, Unraveling the Global Agenda. Dr. Rectenwald, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kim. Good to be here.
So explain to us first what this executive order is. It's Executive Order 14067, so it doesn't seem like it's too scary. But what is this about?
Yeah, I mean, the Biden administration has signaled through this executive order and previous documents that it's very interested in accelerating investigations and exploration of the possibility of a federal digital currency through the Federal Reserve. And so they're looking at expediting this. This is being pushed globally. The digital currencies are being pushed globally. They're already operative in China, for example, and in other countries like some of the Bahamas and in one African country in particular, and there are pilot projects underway all around the world. So the advance towards digital currency is seemingly on the agenda here, and it doesn't look like there's going to be anything to derail it, except perhaps some logistics. And I believe that this is the intention of the administration, is to push ahead with this.
Yeah, what will happen to society if we move towards digital currency? I mean, on one hand, obviously, using bank cards and going digital has been really convenient for all of us. I don't carry cash much anymore. I think many of us don't. It's hard to find cash these days, but I still like the option of it. But going towards a full-on digital currency, what is the agenda here, and what would be the negative and positive, I guess, impacts of it?
Well, it's important to note that this is not simply a digital currency, but it's a central bank digital currency, which would be issued directly by the Fed. And likewise, your accounts would be held at the Fed. So the Federal Reserve, you'd be banking with them. So this would possibly obviate entirely commercial banks. This is one of the things that's being worked out, is how will commercial banks survive a central bank digital currency. But your account would be held by the Fed, which means that all spending, savings, and debt would be known and transparent to the Fed, to the Federal Reserve. They would know exactly what transactions you were undertaking, what monies you were receiving from whom, etc., and they would know your spending and savings and your debt altogether. And so it's a total surveillance over all commercial transactions. And there's some serious misgivings that should be noted here with reference to the CBDC. And one of them, of course, has to do with the idea that with the Fed involved directly in your banking, having a bank account effectively with the Fed, this gives the federal government complete surveillance, and it makes your accounts and transactions utterly transparent to the federal government. And this could also lead to such things as barring various kinds of transactions, barring various kinds of spending on particular items that are deemed unessential or even that are deemed unsustainable. So we're talking about questions about effectively a kind of woke ledger that's kept on each individual, such that person's spending and savings and receipts could be prohibited depending on what they're trying to do. And this could also mean, from the Fed standpoint, they could basically rush monies into various sectors of the economy under so-called emergency situations. Like they did with the COVID, they could actually do this in real time. And the other possibility here is real-time taxation. not waiting until April to pay your taxes, but having taxes deducted instantly from your accounts based on receipts. So there's a lot of issues at stake here, and some say, and I think it's true, that this could be the closing of a totalitarian circle, because we're talking about now bringing everything including your commercial activities, into the purview of the state.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely sounds like a World Economic Forum dream, right? Where they can issue digital currencies, track everyone's income, purchase history in real time, like you mentioned, being able to know, and just funneling all of that, the transactions in one spot, centralizing that so that it is then easy to say to somebody, well, we're going to cut you off because you're speaking out against the government. You know, we deem you a terrorist. And that's what they would do, right? That's how they
Right.
always get away with it, is saying, well, now we find you to be a terrorist, and a dangerous person in some way. And so we have the right now to limit you from survival, essentially. And we saw them
Yes.
already do this with the trucking convoy, with January. Now they call people, the January 6th people that were just there, even terrorists, insurrectionists. They call people that, parents at school board meetings, terrorists, right? I mean, it just doesn't stop. Who is a terrorist? Anybody that's just speaking up against the government, rising up, protesting. People that don't want to take the vaccines, they don't want to be mandated for the vaccines, suddenly they're now a threat to society. I mean, this would be absolutely, completely dangerous. And then it would all be in the power of these private banks that run the Fed, right? It's not even the government that runs the Fed. It's private institutions that do.
Right.
So this is, so tell us, you know, in the grand scheme of things with the Great Reset, how important is this to them, do you think, this moving us towards this central digital currency?
Well, the Great Reset is really about a vast behavior modification program that's aimed at our consumption and production, and it's aimed to reduce our consumption, in particular in various areas like oil consumption, like natural gas, like all fossil fuel consumption, and even meats, and basically to change our dietary habits, to reset our behavior entirely. So this would give them, in conjunction, by the way, with digital identity, which is also being pushed by the World Economic Forum and many of its affiliates. They want to have a complete record of everything you do, which would be part of basically a database on you that would follow you everywhere you go. And this, in connection with the CBDCs, could signal the end of liberty entirely. So it's a very devastating issue. And the Bank of International Settlements, who's done research on this, says there's no way to issue central bank digital currencies without them being transparent to the central banks, so they will know everything that you're doing.
Who is really, do you think, behind this global reset? I mean, it's hard to pinpoint who the main players are. Is it politicians, like liberal politicians, you know, the Joe Bidens and the Justin Trudeaus of the world? Is it the banks? Is it, you know, who is it that you, from your view, is behind this and wanting us to go into this, you know, one world order or whatever it is?
Well, I can say that the kind of parties that are signed on to this is all I can say, is who is signed on to it and what are they doing. You know, whether there's a grand puppet master pulling strings is almost indeterminable. But I will say this, that the leading world banks like the IMF, the World Bank, the leading world's asset managers like BlackRock Inc., and the leading corporations in the world are all on board with this stakeholder capitalism and which is effectively the Great Reset. The Great Reset amounts to the World Economic Forum's efforts to accelerate reaching the UN's Agenda 2030 goals of sustainable development. So the UN's behind it, the WEF's behind it, all the WEF's partners, including all the leading asset managers in the world, controlling upwards of, you know, $22 trillion worth of assets, the leading banks, including Bank of America, the leading insurance companies, all of these organizations and corporations, the world's leading corporations are partners with the World Economic Forum and funders of their agenda and are signed on to this stakeholder capitalism. So all of these players, and they've been coordinated through the WEF as kind of the pivot man. Klaus Schwab basically serves as the quarterback, calling the plays, coordinating all these parties into bringing about this Great Reset.
Yeah, it's really, really actually kind of scary to think about going towards this what they want to do. And, I think a lot of people, though, they hear it and they say, oh, come on, Kim and Michael, you two what are you so afraid about with this Great Reset thing? Because, it's obviously for a good cause. Like what you mentioned, it's about sustainability. It's about getting off of oil. It's about having a cleaner, greener world. So what's your problem with that? So really, what is your problem with that?
Well, my problem is that, first of all, the pretext has changed over time for controlling behavior, including not only consumption, production, but also reproduction. This has been on the agenda for quite a while here, population control. That they have changed the pretext for undertaking this kind of Great Reset several times. First, we were told it was global cooling. Then we were told it was the ozone layer. So there have been numerous pretexts for controlling worldwide global behavior. And so this is just the new one. And there's indications that they don't actually believe in global warming anyway, because they have blocked access to nuclear power, which would have no carbon emissions, and hydroelectric power. I think without going too far into it, the so-called climate science, the science, is rather dubious, frankly. And there have been numerous pushback against it. There's been a great deal of pushback against it, including by many climate scientists who have written a declaration that there is no climate emergency. And this would throw the world into a pre-industrial stage, which could lead to mass, poverty, but also possible famine, if you look at the agricultural sector and what they're trying to do there. So it's a significant threat.
Yeah, the thing that casts doubt for me, and I'm somebody who's always come from the left. I was the only political party I ever registered for was the Green Party. When I was very young, I actually wrote an anti-deforestation bill, went and spoke to legislators, and was very concerned about the environment when I was really, really young. I was like one of the first kind of sunrise movement kids. It wasn't that, but similar. I was 11, 12 years old and doing all of these things, trying to pass these bills and really concerned about the environment. And the thing that makes me call this into question, I haven't dug deep into the climate science or the claims, to be quite honest with you. I'm pretty open to both sides, I suppose, and hearing the arguments out. But I do see that it is being used as an agenda for sure when it comes to the Great Reset. And the second thing that really causes me to question it is what they told me was going to happen when I was a kid and why I was panicking and trying to write these anti-deforestation bills and saying the future, you're ruining my future. Very similar to what we're hearing like Greta Thunberg say and all these other young kids. They told me there was only so many years left. I mean, that's what they said, right? At the time, they said, Kim, when you're in your 40s, there will be no more planet for you. Well, now I'm in my 40s and there's still a planet. So that is where I then say, they've been saying this, and I've dug up even Dianne Feinstein saying things, back in the early 2000s of we only have 15 years left. We have to do something. Well, that was in 2002. 15 years has gone by, and now it's, we only have 15 years left. So that is the thing that causes me. I mean, I think everybody wants to live on a clean planet. We all want clean air. We all want clean drinking water. We all want that. But it is when they're using it for this agenda to keep certain nations down from developing, to keep people in check, to say, well, because you're not behaving the way we want and we're doing it for the good or the greater good. And whenever they use that, well, this is for the greater good, then people start to fall in line with that. We saw that even with the mandates with vaccines. It was do this or else, you're going to harm society. So it does cause me to greatly question whether or not the
Yes.
science is accurate because of that history that I've known, being in that movement since I was very young, before most people even knew what recycling was, back in the early 90s,
Yes.
1991. So, yeah, and you're saying that you do believe that it is just being used
Well,
as an agenda
I
or
was
as an
I
excuse.
was a leftist myself as well, and I can tell you that I was a far leftist. In fact, I was a Marxist. And I can tell you one of the things that leftism depends on is any kind of catastrophism in order to justify the kinds of interventions that they want to make and undertake. They must have catastrophism. They must rely on this apocalyptic kinds of foreboding statements and sentiments in order to justify the kind of authoritarian interventions that they mean to undertake. So leftism is utterly dependent upon catastrophism.
I would say both sides definitely use fear to get their agendas across.
Oh,
right?
yes.
That's the best way to
Yes.
get people to do what you want, is to make them afraid that, if it's the left saying climate disaster, or whatever the disaster is, fascism, Nazis are coming, right? We're hearing this a lot. Or
Yes.
on the right, if they say, oh, they're all of these other things, watch out for, there's a lot of things that they fearmonger. I think both sides definitely do that to keep people in.
Oh, yeah,
on their
absolutely.
side.
Yeah, I'm not talking, but I'm just saying that having analyzed certain catastrophisms, in particular the kinds that are purveyed by those who want to intervene in the economy and intervene in our lives and have control, this has been really a kind of series of threats that they've keep bringing up and fear-mongering over time, and none of them have come true, as you've put it.
Right. That's the thing to remember. Dr. Michael Rectenwald, thank you so much for being here, author of The Great Reset and the Struggle for Liberty, Unraveling the Global Agenda, amongst many other books. You've got plenty. I know you've got like 15, but that is the latest one. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kim. Great to talk to you.
Well, now would be a great time to talk about investing in gold, diversifying, trying to get away from all that digital currency, right? Well, Birch Gold has a really great offer this month until March 31st. You can qualify for a free safe that they will ship directly to your door on qualifying purchases through Birch Gold. You can just collect your free info kit to find out more and see if you could be one of those qualifying purchases by going to birchgold.com/Kim. That is where you can get that. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, lots of satisfied customers. They can walk you through the process of either buying, maybe you want physical gold and precious metals that you want to put in that safe, or if you want to convert your existing 401k or IRA into an IRA in precious metals, they will walk you through that entire process. So just go to birchgold.com/Kim to talk to a specialist and find out if you can qualify for that free safe that could be shipped directly to your door before March 31st. birchgold.com/Kim.